looks pretty good to me. Good Meat has now started serving cultivated chicken in partnership with Jose Andres at his restaurant China Chilcano in Washington, D.C. And their first reservations, you'll be able to book a table towards the end of July. So I just want to show a couple clips first of that first tasting that they're doing. And then I want to show a clip by Al Jazeera News, and they do an interview with someone who doesn't believe that we're going to scale. So this is now the billion-dollar question. Can these companies actually scale production of cultivated meat? So it's not just another food for rich people. Personally, I think we'll get there, but it's still interesting to listen to some people who don't believe we're going to get there. So I'm putting an interview about that as well. So let's get into the video.
The chicken is here, and people are going to be talking. This is a new way to produce protein, using less water, less land, no antibiotics. Look at this. Amazing! Oh yeah, now look at this color. The vegetables, the rice, the chicken. It's great chicken. It's good chicken. It's good meat. Oh yes. Beautiful. This is a first in the history of humanity.
US regulators have given the green light to the sale of lab-grown chicken products at selected restaurants. Two companies, Good Meat and Upside Foods, have received approval. Lab-grown meat is cultivated from animal cells in steel tanks. Its proponents say it's a more sustainable kind of meat production, better for both animals and the environment. The US is the second country to approve lab-grown meat after Singapore did so in 2020.
Ultimately, the cells do what they do. They like to double, they like to grow, and then ultimately they become meat. So after 7 to 14 days, or a little longer, depending on what we're making, we harvest the cells, and then we can make it into any meat product that you love. So it could be a chicken fillet, it could be a hamburger, a hot dog, it could be pretty much anything that you can think of.
Well, Ricardo San Martin is director of University for California, Berkeley's Alternative or Alt Meat Lab, as it's known, and joins us now from Berkeley. Good to have you with us, Professor, live on Al Jazeera. Can we just start with how feasible you think this new technology is, and is it a solution to a long-term problem, perhaps, of meat production?
My response is based on very well-known fermentation science. And all the analysis we have done here at the College of Engineering at University of California, Berkeley, indicate that, unfortunately, everything is against having these cells and this meat production at scale in an economical way.
Why does the scale or the upscaling, you might say, of production not sort of add up as far as you're concerned?
Oh, the thing is, the cells are living organisms and have their limitations, and they depend on the oxygen they receive or the nutrients they're given, and they have limits to how many you can grow in these fermenters. And the fermenters are very expensive, and these cells are animal cells prone to contamination and viruses, which makes biosafety add to the cost. And therefore, the investment in this kind of facilities is very large. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And because of that, then although it's technically feasible to produce them at small scale, it's not economically feasible to produce them at large scale.
What sort of historical evidence is there that ideas like this that require millions of dollars for development don't actually work in the end? Is there any example that you can give us?
Well, when you're against nature, there's a very clear example, and I did all my grad studies when I was young on this topic, which is the replacement of gasoline or oil by ethanol. That was in the 1980s. That was the major thing every country in the Western countries were investing on. And so hundreds of millions of dollars were dedicated to obtain sugars from forests and then make those sugars with yeast, make them ethanol and run cars. Until this day, this had been impossible to do. And that's because of the nature and the complexity of the shapes and forms of what nature has done.
Sometimes science has a weird way of finding other solutions by accident. Do you think there is a practical application for the technology that's being used that could be used in another positive way?
It could be used as the companies they're claiming at making an expensive ingredient, let's say fat cells, to add to plant-based matrices, and then you could, by doing that, you could impart flavor or you can impart texture to plant-based foods. So that's a way of lowering the costs. But there's no way you can do, like, let's say, a chicken fillet at a reasonable cost with these technologies.
Do you think, though, that I say, US regulators have given the green light to this technology and to this development? Do you believe that governments and researchers have to take a chance? You have to try something out to see whether it's going to work or not.
You have to. I'm a scientist myself, and I belong to the College of Engineering of UC Berkeley. So there's no way we are going to face the problems we're facing of human growth, and climate change without technology. But you have to do a clear assessment and differentiate between what technology can do because of its limit of the boundaries it has with a business. And what you're probably listening is the business narrative. And you can probably make, a small business out of that, profitable, but that's not a game-changing solution to replacing meat with this kind of developments. It's a very expensive development. All these companies are thinking of, hundreds of millions of dollars to create facilities that would only replace, a few thousand animals.
It'll be interesting to see how this does move forward. But for the moment, we'll leave it there. Ricardo San Martin from the University of California. Thanks so much for joining us on Al Jazeera, sir.
I'm Chris. This is Space Foods. We'll see you in the next video.